Hey everybody, Jeff Schneider here, and today I'm going to come up with a solo over a set of random chords. I just asked ChatGPT to generate a list of random jazz chords. They don't make any sense on a music theory level, and that's the point. I want it to be hard. I want to have this challenge of having to come up with lines and ideas that sound natural over this very weird progression. So let's jump right into it. As I come up with the solo, I'm going to think out loud and share some soloing tips and insights along the way. We start off with actually a fairly normal progression. It's a G7 flat 9 to C major 9. That kind of a sound. And even though we're not really in the key of C major here, I mean, this chord progression is all over the place in terms of a key center. We're not even going to worry about a key center, but at least at the very beginning, we have this idea or this feeling of C major. I'm going to play the first four measures of the backing track just so you can get a sense of what this sounds like. Okay, cool. What I want to do first of all is start simply. This is just a great tip in general, is to start simple. If you're going to do a trick on a balance beam, like a flip or something, you want to have your balance first. It's kind of an obvious thing to say. Like if you're wobbling and you don't have your balance, you're not going to try to do that flip. The same is true for soloing. Why try to do something fancy if you don't have your balance from the get-go? So let's start simply. Let's get our balance. And a great way of doing that is playing simple rhythms, really concrete melodies. So we have this G7 to a C major 7. And notice I didn't even say the extensions there. I didn't even tell you that it's a G7 flat 9. I'm aware of that, but I'm not too concerned with it. I remember when I was in high school, I would see these chord changes in my big band charts. There would be all of these extensions and it would freak me out. And then I just decided eventually I was going to ignore all of that and just look at the main chord because that's a great place to start. So don't worry about the flat 9 if it's freaking you out. It's a G7 going to a C major 7, or even just a G7 going to C major. That's one thing I like about the Charlie Parker Omni book. It's that famous yellow book with all the Charlie Parker solos in it. It doesn't have any fancy chords in it. It's just the basic G7s and C major 7s, the bare bones chords. All right, I'm talking too much. Let's get into it. So we're going to start real simple, maybe something like this. It's a concrete melody. We start off with those quarter notes, bop, bop, bop. And then we go to this E flat 13 sharp 11. Again, we don't need to worry about those extensions at first. I just want to know what that C major sounds like going to an E flat 7 chord. Kind of reminds me of giant steps. You've got that C major chord going up a minor third to E flat 7, essentially a 1 chord going to a dominant chord, a minor third above. I am familiar with that sound, which is another good reason to learn a lot of tunes, because that way, when you do have a new progression, something that's even random, you don't get as thrown off because you're like, oh, that reminds me of that other tune that I know. All right, so we have, let's go back to what we played before. And then, I don't know. I like that. We have. Now I'm in this E flat 7 scale. And you can hear the relationship between and. There's a lot of repetition. I'm also hearing rhythmically, so I don't know what notes I'm going to play next, but the rhythm that I want to hear is ba-da-ba-de-de-boo-ba. I'm always thinking about rhythm first. Well, maybe not always, but I try to. Rhythm is more foundational than pitches. If you're thinking too much about pitches, you're going to get caught up in music theory and lose that connection with the music. So I always encourage people, especially when they're not hearing pitches, to focus on rhythm, because it's a lot easier to go ba-ba-ba-ba-doo-ba. Ba-de-ba-de-boo-boo-ba. Even without the pitches, you can hear the relationship between those two lines. But we do have to put pitches to it eventually. So we have. Now, I am hearing this. Ba-de-ba-de-de-boo-ba. I'm hearing a G there. Now, I'm not hearing the A7 sus. Like, my ears, I'm not familiar with this E flat 13 sound going to an A7 sus sound. You know, maybe somebody with better ears would be able to actually hear those chords in their heads. But here's what I can do. I hear this ba-da-ba-da-dee-doo-da. I know I want to hear this G, or at least that's where my ear is naturally going. Now the question is, does the G work on an A7 sus? Now this is the music theory side of my brain kicking in. I'm using a little bit of my ear side and my music theory side. And yes, G does work on A7 sus because it is the 7. Now, what is it actually going to sound like with the chord underneath? Well, let's find out. I'm also going to make the sheet music available as a free download, so you can click that link in the description below. I'll put the sheet music in a few different keys for like alto saxophone and trumpet, you know, bass clef, and I'll include the note names in the note heads in case you're not so hip to reading music or if you're not quite there yet. I'll include the backing track as well if you want to try your hand at playing this solo over the track. But let's hear what this sounds like so far. So you've got this question and you've got this answer. We got the first line ending on the G. That's our question. And then our answer. It's like it's a rhyme. We have the G up top and then the G down below. It's the same sound, just an octave apart. And of course, rhythmically, ba 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 da da, ba de ba de ba boo ba. All right, continuing on, I'm not going to put anything else in this A7 sus measure. Sometimes just leaving space or holding out a note is the most effective and mature thing to do. You don't need to fill every beat with a note. Just because you have the chord there doesn't mean you have to play on it. So we have this A7 sus going to the B minor 11. Let's hear what that sounds like. That's actually really nice. It's not just about the chord though. We have to connect it to the idea that I've already established. That's okay. You know, I'm thinking in my head, there's not a lot of colorful notes included in there. Like I'm going on the root, that B right there, from the 1 to the 4, but I do like the sound of that melody. So I'm gonna put it in for now and we'll hear how it sounds in context. That's kind of cool. You know, this whole thing has kind of a Wayne Shorter vibe to it. What's that tune? I'll think of it later. Let's review. I'm just gonna sing the rhythm to make sure that's sounding good. Ba 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 do ba, ba de ba de ba boo ba, ba do ba de ba with the backing track. All right, then we go to F sharp 7 sharp 5 flat 9. It's a fancy sounding chord, but it's just F sharp 7. It's gonna sound like it flows well from that B minor. It's like we have this, that relationship there, like a 1 chord going to a 5 chord. By the way, if you want to download these chord scale charts, you can get them for free. They're linked in the description below. They are such a great resource for understanding how music theory works and seeing the relationships between chords and scales. It is the thing I wished I had when I was learning jazz harmony. So be sure to check it out, linked in the description below. All right, but we're coming from this line here. It's all about the melody. Do not lose that awareness of where you are melodically. That works. Let's try a few variations. Work that flat 9 in there. I kind of like that, sort of this enclosure idea, above, below, and then landing on my target. Let's try that out. Again, rhythmically, completely connected. Ba ba da ba da, ba da ba da ba da. It's the same thing. It's the same rhythm. You see it right in here? Ba ba da ba da, ba da ba da ba da. Same rhythm. Let's make this an A sharp, and we'll put the chord in F sharp. I'm just going to put F sharp 7 altered. Yeah, that works. All right, so now that F sharp 7 is going to go to a D9. It's going to sound something like this. I'm liking that G down to the F sharp, that voice leading there, the flat 9 of the F sharp 7 going down to the 3rd of the D9. That's kind of nice. I'm already on F sharp though. In my head, I'm hearing ba da, and that'll work. That'll work because we're going to a D9. And as soon as I play that chord, I'm hearing ba da. What I'm doing is I'm using my ear. I'm hearing the chord and I'm using my ear to come up with the melody. I'm not thinking. I didn't think, okay, what note works on D9? No, I heard da. I heard the sound da da. And I know what the note is after the fact because I can kind of transcribe what I'm singing, what I'm hearing. And again, I'm also using my theory brain to just make sure that the note does work, that it will sound good. We have a D9 here. I'm not sure about the rhythm though. I'm gonna break the repetition because if I do it too many times in a row, this rhythmic ba ba da ba da, ba ba da ba da, if I do that too many times, it'll be too repetitive. So the real secret here is to make sure you have repetition with some variation. If it's too repetitive, it's gonna be too expected and get boring and people will kind of tune out. But if there's too much variation, then it's random and it's all over the place. It sounds like noodles and nobody will be able to listen to that either. So you have to find that balance. Again, if I do ba-da ba-da ba-da, ba-da ba-da ba-da, ba-da ba-da ba-da, if I do that too many times in a row, it's gonna be too predictable. I want to avoid that. So I'm gonna break the repetition here on a rhythmic level, and I'm gonna put a quarter note in. Yeah, ba-boo, ba-ba. It's gonna be ba-doo, ba-ba-boo, ba. Again, rhythm first. Ba-boo, ba-ba, boo. Now what's the next note? Well, the chord that comes up here is an A flat major 7 with a sharp 5. Now I do want to pay attention to that sharp 5 because it's going to be a vastly different chord. This, just a regular A flat major 7 versus this. That's a very different sound. It's not as inconsequential as adding a flat 9 to a dominant chord. Now that doesn't mean I have to play the sharp 5. I'm going to use my melodic instincts to drive this melody forward. I'm not going to just automatically shoot for that sharp 5. I'm letting my ear decide what happens next. And then the chord is. Let's try this as an exercise. I'm going to play the melody without the chords underneath and just hear some notes that come to mind, ignoring what chord is after that D9. So picking up into the B minor 11 section. Ba-boo, ba-ba-doo-da. I'm hearing an F sharp. Will that work on an A flat major 7 sharp 5? Probably not, because we would have a G instead of an F sharp. It's not a A flat 7 chord, it's an A flat major 7 chord. So that's not going to work. But let's try it again. Maybe I'll hear something else. Dun. I could go to a D. That'll work on A flat major 7 sharp 5. It's a sharp 11, but I think it'll work. It's crunchy, but there's something there. Or what about this? Now there's the C. The C is definitely going to work on the A flat major 7 sharp 5. Let's A/B test. I'm gonna start with the ba-do-da-da-do-da, going down to the D, and then I'll go up to the C and decide which one I like more. So let's just hear what it sounds like with the backing track. Okay. And now the other version. All right, they both sound good in relation to the chords, but I like going down. I just like that melodically speaking. So I'm going to put the D in there, down the octave, and tie that in to the next measure. That's going to be A flat major 7 with a sharp 5. But I can already tell I'm getting in the weeds here, so let's back it up. I'm going to play the whole thing, and let's make sure it sounds cohesive. But we still have another 8 measures to go. I'm gonna take a little break, cool off the room, turn the AC back on, and then we'll be back for the second half. Stay tuned.